let's get started.
Okay. So this is can everybody see? Everybody should be able to see the screen that I'm sharing, and it's a list of employees with some names and dates and so forth. We're going to talk about some ways that you might have to modify this. So for instance, you can see that the last name, first name columns here everything is in uppercase. And sometimes when you download something from another program, or this is how the information was input, you do have stuff like this, and sometimes you need to modify that. And sometimes you need to modify the fact that you don't want them in separate columns, or you want them in sometimes you want to take names like this, which are together in one column, and you need to separate them. So I'm going to select on this full names sheet, I'm going to select the names here. I have about 25 of them here, and I'm going to show you how you can easily separate them. And that's actually a data function, but it certainly has to do with text. So if I go to the Data tab, and I go to Text to Columns, it will ask me, it goes through a text wizard, and it's going to ask me what is the separator, the delimiter between the different pieces of text in this. And since tab comes up as a default, but there is no tab, I'm going to uncheck that, and what we do have as a separator is a space. And as soon as I click on space, you'll see it separates the names. Now, there's going to be one problem with this method, and I purposely wanted to do this to show it to you, is that when I tell it to separate it, to finish this, it's going to say, do I want to overwrite and replace, because it needs another column to separate these into. So definitely you don't want to overwrite your information that you have. So I'm going to cancel it, and first I'm going to put an extra column in. I'm going to insert a column just to the right of the names, and then I'm going to redo what I was just doing, okay, by going to Data and Text to Columns, and again saying it is a delimited list. In other words, there's a specific character or characters in between my different words, and it is a space. Excuse me. And when I go to the next, this is just general, or text will do here. I don't have to change that. And when I say finish, notice what happens. So it's separated them. And all I'd have to do here is change the labels, perhaps, from last and first. So now I have the names separated, which will certainly make it easier for things like sorting and filtering and so forth. So that's one of the things you might want to know. Now, if we go back to the employee list, the EE sheet, here we have them already separated. But what if we want to have a full name column, such as here in this next sheet, which looks pretty empty now? There's a full name field, and now I want to pull in the names from the employee list sheet. However, excuse me, one of the problems here is that the names are all in uppercase, and you might not want them to read that way. You might want them to be in what's called proper case, where only the first character is in uppercase. So we're going to use a function called concatenate, which is in the formulas tab and in the text category of functions. You'll see concatenate. And concatenate simply means join together several text strings into one. And it allows you to join up to 255 text strings. And we're certainly not going to do that. We're going to join a couple here. And so what we want to do is in the first string, we're going to go back to the employee list, and we're going to click on the first name. Now, I do want a space between the first name and the second name, and when you're using concatenate, anything that is not a cell address or a value, you need to enclose in quotes. So I'm going to do the quote, a space, and another quote, because all I want is a space in between the two. And I'm going to click on the third text item, and then I'm going to go to here, the last name. So I'm going to have first name, space, last name. And here I go. And if I autofill this down a ways, I'm going to get that for all of them. However, I still have an uppercase only. So if I want to make this in proper case, I can nest a function. So I'll do it in the first name, and then we'll copy it down. I can click between the equal and the function of concatenate, and I can type in the word proper. Oops, we'll have to spell it right. And open a paren. And then all the way at the end, I'm going to close that paren. And when I hit enter, notice mark is in proper case. And if I autofill, they're all in proper case. I think I need to take it down a little further. I had about 25 of them. There we go. Okay, so what we did here was we used the concatenate to pull in the information from the C column and the B column of the employee list. And then we nested that proper function around it. Okay. Another thing you might need to do is to extract some information from an existing sheet. So in the requirement sheet, for instance, what if we needed to put as a user ID the first initial and the last name in proper case for each of the employees? So that might be some user ID you're using as part of the internet address or email address and so forth. So I'm going to use concatenate again here. I could go to the text function and pull off concatenate, but if you know what function you're going to be using, you can start typing. So if I type equal and CON, notice it narrows it down to only those functions that have that beginning. And if I double click on concatenate, there I am. If I know exactly what I want to do, I can type in the information here, but I always like to see the dialog box. So I'm going to go to the insert function on the bar on top. And when I click on that, here I have the dialog box, which would make things a little bit easier for me. Okay. So if I want to say department code and department name, okay, I'm going to go to the employee list, and I'm going to say, whoops, we need to move this out of the way a little bit. Here's the department code. Okay. All right, so that's the first one. Then I'm going to want a space. So I'm going to do in quotes, just put a space mark. And then I'm going to go to the back to my employee list, and I'm going to click on the department name. So I'm going to have department code and department name. And again, I can auto fill, and I have that. I put this in the wrong column, but you get the idea. So I have the department. I could move this over here. Whoops.
The mouse isn't working.
Whoops. Whoops. There we go. Okay. And what I should do also is create a user ID. And for the user ID, I'm going to put the first initial and the last name in proper case. So again, I'm going to use a concatenate. So I'm going to do equal con. So I get the concatenate without having to go up and pick it off a list. And then I'm opening my function, insert function. So I have the dialog box. And what I'm going to do here, since I don't want to pull in the whole name, I just want to pull in the first initial, I'm going to, well, I think I'm going to use a function within this function, and the function is left, because on the left side of the name is the first initial, which I would like. So I'm going to do left, and go back to the area that has the sheet, the employee list sheet that has the name, and I'm going to take the C column because that's the first name. Okay. And it wants to know, and then you have to tell it how many characters from the left do you want to take. So it's really just one because it's the first initial. And I'm going to close that. I think I might have, okay, I didn't put the paren in there, so you have to put that part in parentheses. Now for the second one, if I don't want any spaces, I'm not going to put a space there. But I do want the second one in proper case. So again, I can put in the proper function and then nest within that, going to employee list and going to last name, and then closing that parentheses. And you can see down here before you finish, say okay, whether it's actually put first initial last name as you expected. And I can do that, and then all of a sudden carry it down, and now I have what I might be using as a user ID. Okay, so just an example of a few ways that you might want to work with your text without having to retype and without having to worry about making mistakes because you're using the information that's already there. Now here's another way to pull out information. If I go back to the employee list, you'll see that column G has some combination of location for each person, maybe building and room, and then extension. And it may be easier for me on another list just to pull out that extension number, the phone extension. And notice that, of course, the phone extension is always the same number of characters. So in this case, it's 4 characters. And I might need those 4 characters in a separate place. If I go to the requirement sheet, you'll notice there's a column F here for extension. And here's where I want to do this. So I'm going to use the right function because those characters are on the right side. And I could type equal right, or I could go to the formulas and text function and go down here and pull in right. So whichever way you prefer. And the text is what cell are you pulling in the right characters from? And so I'm going to go back to my employee list and pick the first one in column G. And then it's how many characters are you pulling in? And since the extension is 4, I'm going to say give me 4 characters. So here's the phone extension, and of course if I carry it down, and now I have a list with just the phone extensions here, which is what I was looking for. Okay. A couple more things that you might want to know how to do. On the first sheet, the employee list sheet, notice we have everything in uppercase, and we saw how we could change it to proper case on another sheet. But what if I want to change it to proper case right here? So if I want to change, I'm going to need an extra column. So if I go here and insert a column, and then in that first cell, I want to take the last name, let's say, and put it in proper case. So I could go to equal proper, or I could pull it off the text list of functions. And it wants to know what is it that I want in proper case, and I'm just going to click on the last name. Say OK, and there I go. Autofill it down, and I have all those last names in proper case. So you might say, OK, I'm going to take the label and move it over. And now I'm going to get rid of my B column because I don't need the last name twice. So what happens if I go to delete that B column? Whoops. I have a problem because, I'm going to undo this, because those proper case names were actually referencing the column to the left. So if I remove that column, it doesn't have a reference. So what I need to do in this case is to take all of these names in proper case and copy, however you want to do a copy, and then you want to paste it in the same place, but not a regular paste because that's a relative paste. Whoops. You want to do, we're going to go to home. You want to drop down your paste choices, and you want to paste it just as values. So in other words, it doesn't have any reference behind it. There's no function or formula here. It's just values. And now I can remove or delete the other column. Okay, now this may cause errors in my other sheets because I have references to that column, but I'm just using this for illustration purposes, so we're not going to worry about that. Another handy, obviously you could do that with first name as well, put in an extra column and reference it for proper case, and then copy and paste the values and so forth. Another handy thing that concatenate or a text function can be used for is to create an actual written report. So although I have all this information in chart form, I might actually need something that was more of a sentence structure. That might say that, you know, Joe Williams works in research and development and his extension is 5522. So I'm going to use concatenate to do that sort of thing as well. So here I have a report column. I just put the text I wanted to use here. And I'm going to say, I'm going to go into an equal concatenate to start that. And then I'm going to use definitely want to use the insert function because I'm going to have a lot of pieces to this and it'll be easier to see that way. So my text starts with first name, and then I need a space. So I use, okay, so I'm enclosing it in quote marks. And then I'm going to go to back to my list and say last name. And then I'm going to go to the next text, and also keeps adding more areas, more text areas for me. And now I'm going to go to my next one, and I'm going to put a space, and I'm going to say works in space, and then the quote. And then I'll go to the next text and say the department name. And then in the next text, I'm going to say space, and I'll use his phone, phone extension is space, and then I'm going to go to the next one and go to our requirements sheet, because that's where we put in the extension only, and pick that F column that we pulled out with the write function. And if I want to end this properly with a period, I could literally use another text area just to put in a period and end the quote. And you can actually see the sentence being typed out here in your function dialog box here. And you could correct something if it was not. I say, okay, there is the sentence regarding the first character, the first employee, and then when I auto-fill that down, around 25, yeah. So now I have a sentence structure type report for each of those people. And I could have built in a proper case function as well for the first name there. So that's another handy thing that you can use concatenate for if you actually want to create a text kind of function. You want to do it within your spreadsheet instead of going to Word or some other text vehicle. Okay. If we go to the full name sheet here, I have made a copy of some of these departments just to use as an illustration. And in some of these cases, you can see there are actually extra spaces, either in front of the first character or in between different words. And sometimes that happens, especially a leading space, if you're copying this in from a certain area. And you might not want that to happen. So one of the functions you can use to avoid this, one of the text functions, is called trim. And again, I'm going to go to the column, the cell right next to it, and use that as an example. And if we could go to formulas, we could go to text, and we could pick out trim, or I could have started typing in equal trim. Okay, and then it wants to know, well, what is it that you want to trim? So this is a very simple, just one argument function. And when I say okay, and then autofill it, you can see that in some of the places where I obviously had extra space, it has taken out the extra space or extra space in between the characters. So it will leave a single space in between any words or group of characters, and it will strip out extra spaces at the beginning, or if you have more than one space, like here there were 2 spaces and it's taken them out. So that's a trim function, which is another text function. One more text function I have to show you, and that's called values. And let's go to here, the first employee list, and here we have dates. And if I wanted to do some mathematical formulations on dates, like figure out, well, this is when they were hired and I wonder how long they've worked for me, so I need to do some subtraction or something, then I need to convert the dates into a sequence that the program can understand. So I need to change it into a value. So I'm going to use that as an example. And again, I could start typing either equal value or go to my text drop down and say value. And it just wants to know what text, what cell do you want to turn into value. So I clicked on the date of hire and I said, okay. And notice if I autofill this down, it's changed that into the date value of that date. So as I'm sure you know, all the spreadsheets start counting dates from January 1st of 1900. And so we are in, I don't know, 40,000 something in terms of dates. So this is a very old spreadsheet, and it has dates from the 90s and to the early 2000s, so you can see. So now I would be able to use that to, let's say, subtract that date from today's date to find out how many days somebody has been working, and then convert that into years or months if I like. So that is quite a few of the date functions, of the text functions. But if we drop down the text, you can see there are more. Obviously, we don't have time to go through all of them. But if there are any questions on the functions that I've done so far, we would be able to see that.
So Ronnie, it sounds like you're a little sick right now.
Yeah, I'm not feeling too well, folks. I wouldn't have been able to do this yesterday or the day before, but on the mend, so that's good.
Okay. I don't see any questions. Ronnie, if someone wants to get some more training, how can they get in touch with you?
Yes, I do training with individuals and with corporate groups, and you can get in touch with me, computertrainingsolutions.biz, B-I-Z, or you can give me a call at 203-329-2421.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. We'll be letting you know as soon as we get the next recording up, or when this recording goes up, and also what our next webinar is going to be. Have a great day, everybody.
Okay, thank you.